Despite seasonal slowdown, Northwest MLS brokers report pent-up demand for housing. This is my long-form podcast of what we normally do, which is Market in a Minute. I'm reading all about all the statistics that took place in the Northwest Multiple Listing Service the month of November. Recording this for you in December. Let's check out what is going on. What can we look forward to? The real estate market has had a massive slowdown. What does that mean for us in real estate? Let's take a peek. As of December 5th, 2022, November statistics from Northwest Multiple Listing Service surprised few brokers. I wasn't surprised at all. It was just like, okay, yeah, that sounds about right. They point to holidays, inclement weather, and various economic factors for prompting pauses in listing and sales activity. Pauses, meaning it's coming back, and it will come back. It's a matter of when and how much, right? I mean, that's literally what we've got to work with. Nonetheless, because everybody's wanting to know, when's it coming back? My prediction is next summer of 2023. Here's my thought process on that before we go much further. Federal Reserve trying to break the back of inflation. And in doing so, they've been bumping. They've had, 5 interest rate hikes. That's the federal fund rate, what the federal banks charge each other. That tends to trickle into the other markets as far as interest rates going up. So you've got a situation where the Fed has been aggressive. Some might say they were too late to the party, that they didn't do enough early on when we had clear signs of inflation. I would tend to agree with that. I think the Fed came to the game late in the day, and they're like, we got to do something here. And by the time they got going, inflation had already ramped up and was doing its thing. And so the Fed has, done 4 or 5 3/4 point pops, meaning they've raised their rate by 0.75% of a point. 0.75, and they've done that multiple times. Now, this most recent one in the most recent one in December was 0.5, a half point pop. It's like, okay, because there's enough things in our metrics, in our news coming back on the inflation rates that it's down just a little bit, just a scooch, enough for the Fed to kind of ease off just a little bit. Now, the market's already priced in mortgage rates and car rates and all that good stuff. It's already priced in a half point pop. And if we're expecting a 3/4 point pop and we get a 1 point interest rate bump, then, things are not going to go well. But if the opposite holds true, if we're expecting a 3/4 point raise in interest rates by the Fed and we only get half point, then, this is great. That means the Fed thinks that inflation has been handled. All right, we're going back to normal, all that good stuff. So when you hear the Fed talk about, we raised rates, don't expect to see mortgage rates simultaneously jump that day, because that pricing has been in place over the last month, call it, because it's the anticipation of what the Fed is going to do that actually drives rates up or down, and it's a matter of timing. So by the time the Fed makes their announcement, the market is long since, that's old news. All right, you did what we thought you were going to do. Here's how we reacted, which is, all things are going to be normal. So now people know that the Fed is going to have to do more interest rate hikes down the road because we've still got inflation going. What does that look like? Well, I think it's going to take into springtime and then finally into summer for a lot of this to work its way out. I think we're going to have inflation. I don't think inflation is going to, it's not going to just cave just because the Fed, they're working on their quantitative easing and all this other stuff. And, this is if the Fed can have an impact on inflation. It sure feels like they are right now. If you're in real estate, you know that we've experienced a massive slowdown since last summer. Massive slowdown. One of the bigger or abrupt slowdowns that I've seen, and I've been doing this since the mid-'80s. A long, long time. Way past 30 plus years. Way past what a lot of you have lived. And this has been one of the more abrupt slowdowns from the standpoint of we don't typically have the Fed jack rates this quick, this hard. And yet we also don't have inflation kind of come up and just boom, hit the marketplace the way that it has. And a lot of that has to do with money floating through the system. We threw a couple $1 trillion into the economy and then wondered, hey, where's this inflation coming from? I mean, it didn't take a genius to predict that was happening. And I talked about that in the winter of 2020. You start dumping a bunch of money into the economy, you're going to be off to the races as far as pricing goes. And then you put in, some labor shortages and you put in some supply chain shortages, and you've got this massive demand from people stuck at home wanting stuff delivered to their front door. That's how you get inflation running, double digits. Easy. So is it going to turn around overnight? No. That's why I'm reading this for you in, winter of 2022. And it's going to be until next summer. And that's if next summer is when inflation starts to cool down and we really kind of see the end result. So I would say late spring, summer, somewhere in there, you're going to have a slow market until then. You're going to have the market will start to kind of do its thing and react, because a lot of this just is reaction. It's like, oh, well, I guess those 2.75% interest rates are no longer available. Still need to buy a house. So what am I going to do? Well, you're going to go out and you're going to get the best mortgage rate you can. And then you're going to pencil the numbers and you're going to see, hey, maybe if interest rates do drop by this amount, I can refinance. And this is a better strategy than what we're doing right now, which is just kind of looking in from the outside and hoping things get better. All right. Determined buyers are purchasing homes with pent-up demand driving the market, reported Dean Rebhuhn. He's the owner of Village Homes and Properties in Woodinville. Sellers who price to the market are attracting showings and receiving good offers, he added, noting King County's experienced an average of 55 sales per day last month, which year over year, median prices in King County are up 10 grand, rising from 740 to 750. Now, what's interesting here is that on a year over year basis, you still got prices going up, meaning the prices are up a hair over where they were last year. What you're seeing is a market that went up and now it's come back down. And here you are, you're kind of at even. You're at a break even point. Now, I believe next few months, call it January, February, March, you're going to see a decline in median housing prices year over year. You're going to see that because the numbers moving forward are not going to be sky high like they have been the last few years. But you're also not going to see the tanking of the market that a lot of people are predicting. You're just flat not going to see that because you still don't have the enormous numbers of supply in the marketplace. You've got maybe a couple of months of supply. That is still considered a shortage in most normal markets. And that's opposed to the 2 weeks supply we had at the absolute hot point of the marketplace, right? 2 weeks versus 2 months, and 2 months versus 4 to 6 months. Those are the things that we're talking about here. Those are the differences of what's going on and why I don't think the market's going to turn around anytime soon. I'm a managing broker and I'm an owner of a managing broker and I'm an owner of a real estate appraisal firm. And I'm supposed to be, cheerleader saying everything's great. It's going to be all okay. But that's not really my deal. That's not really my gig. My gig is giving you the information you need to make the decisions moving forward, not only with your buyers, but with your sellers, but also with your own career. Like, all right, how long is this going to last? And can I make it to the other end? Because I'm already hearing stories. I've heard stories from my own brokers. Yep, Sean, I'm getting out of real estate. Well, that didn't take long. You got to be, in order to be successful in real estate, you got to be able to hunker through these down markets and get to the other side. You might be broke. You might question your sanity, but you got to be able to get to the other side, meaning get to that next summer or whatever it's going to be. If you can't take a couple of months of downtime, then real estate really isn't your game. You should be doing something with a more consistent income because real estate is up and down. I mean, massive numbers. You'll be flush 1 minute. You'd be, virtual bankrupt the next. And in order to get through that, you got to figure out how to navigate that. Northwest MLS figures show both pending sales and closed sales fell sharply from a year ago, but median prices system-wide edged up slightly, 0.88%. So almost a percentage from a year ago. So pending sales, homes under contract, closed sales tanked. Those numbers tanked. But we knew that. We've got this huge slowdown. We got interest rates. You doubled interest rates in a very short period of time. Buyers are going to pull back. Sellers are going to pull back. And you're going to be left with people who need to do something, who are going to figure out a temporary plan. They're going to go out there, going to execute. They're going to make it happen. But relative to the numbers of buyers and sellers we had in the marketplace not that long ago, a few months ago, literally, activity is going to be wildly, wildly different. The volume of closed sales at 5,194 was the lowest level since February and January. Our traditional seasonal slowdown around the holidays is happening earlier this year with the alignment of climbing interest rates, economic news, local weather, and a volatile stock market. All right, so you've got a pullback by big tech. You got big tech pulling back right now. So that impacts the market as well. You've got people laying off employees left and right. That impacts things. The trickle-down effect, that impacts things. Weather, yeah, you got a blizzard coming. Half the country isn't going to go out and be looking at homes. They're like, yeah, no, don't want to skid off the road and crash into a stop sign today. So no, I won't be going out to look. So you've got stuff like that, right? So data from the MLS service shows 15.84% of November's sales topped 1 million. While a year ago, 13.9% of sales were at that level. What we're saying here is that stuff over 1 million is still selling. It's still selling. A lot of people wanted to say, yeah, the Seattle market's just going to absolutely tank. It was so high. What goes up must come down to a certain extent. But you've still got the employment in Seattle that is the massive driving force. All right, so you gave up 10,000 employees for, call it Amazon. You gave up 5,000 employees for Facebook, Meta, whatever you want to call it. You got Twitter giving up 3,000 employees. In the big picture of employment, especially here in Seattle, that doesn't impact that much. It really doesn't. And those people get absorbed by other job openings out there because the tech world is still going. I don't care what you say. It's still going. So we come out of this little bit of a slowdown in spring. You're going to see the tech market kind of get back on its footing and go, oh, okay, here's what we're doing. Because I think a lot of the tech money has been impacted as well. You had basically free money out there to fund all of this silliness going on. And now you don't. And so now tech companies are like, oh, God, I guess we actually got to make a profit here, don't we? Yeah, problematic because we're not. Yeah. Twitter, you might point at Twitter and go, oh, look at Elon Musk. He's running it into the ground. Guy's not running Twitter into the ground. He's got, $12 billion in financing on that deal, $44 billion total. He's got a lot of money wrapped up. He's got a game plan. That's how you get to be the wealthiest man in the world. Now he's maybe number 2 or 3. I don't know. He had a little change up. But, yeah, that whole thing, Twitter's driving the tech, economy into the ground. That's not happening. Plus, Twitter just doesn't have that many employees. It doesn't have a significant impact on the overall market. We've got a slowdown because it's more expensive for these tech companies to borrow money right now, period. So there you go. Well, some buyers are taking advantage of the expanding inventory as the market swings to their advantage. Dealey said others are hesitant. Some buyers are sitting on the sidelines waiting for interest rates to come down or thinking prices will come down even further. That's what I am seeing a lot of folks do, is they think that pricing is going to drop significantly. I don't think it will. I think it'll drop a little bit. And then by the time we start to move forward, it's going to be summertime and we're going to have a delayed bunch of inventory go on the market. Things are hot again. I guess now we put our house on the market. We go down that whole road and see where that leads us. Inventory statistics were mixed. Brokers added close to 4,900 listings during November, a decline of 24% compared to the same month a year ago when they added 6,400 new listings. You got a market slowdown. You're going to have fewer people bring their homes in the market. And a lot of that has to do with sellers are like, I'm just going to wait this out. I'm going to see what happens next spring, see if maybe I want to put my house on the market back then, because I know if I put my house on the market right now with the way interest rates are, it's not going to be good. I'm going to get way less. And a lot of the sellers out there right now, they are folks who got greedy and just kept holding off, putting their house on the market. And now they're like, well, I missed it and I don't really need to sell. So I'm just going to hunker down and, just do my thing and not worry about either buying or selling. And that's how you get to the point of no real activity going on relative to what we have been experiencing. So measured by months of inventory, November's supply at 2.36 months was the best since January 2019, when the overall selection reached 2.4 months of inventory. So remember back, that's at the beginning of, that's a year before, January 2019. That is a year before the pandemic, right? Pandemic started the first quarter of 2020. So that's a year before. We had that little bit of a slowdown. But inflation was really low. So we had this market that was, taking a little bit of a breather after 2017 and 2018. And we thought things were going in the wrong direction. Then the pandemic hit and boom, we were off to the races. Second week of March 2020, off to the races. No, May. Yeah, March was when we shut down. April, how's all this going to go? May, all right, interest rates are super low. Buyers are wanting to buy. If we're going to have to hunker down and do this whole thing at home where, both mom and dad work, or mom and mom, or dad and dad, whatever combo you want to have in your household, they're working from home. Kids are schooling at home. They're exercising at home. They're doing damn near everything at home. We need a bigger house. We need to move to the burbs because now we've got this remote work possibility. All that stuff is kind of coming back full circle, right? And we're dealing with how that's impacting our real estate market. So Frank Leach, broker owner at Remax Platinum Services in Silverdale, commented on Kitsap County's improving inventory. All right. You got just about 2 months of supply there versus just over half a month's supply about not long ago, a year ago. So you've got a market that shifted. And that's what a lot of people are talking about. It's what a lot of people are working on. There's a lot of folks in the real estate industry that haven't experienced a slowdown like this. And I haven't experienced a slowdown like this from the standpoint of, wow, that came on fast. We were roaring so hard. And then all of a sudden, boom, down. I remember one of the last real upward swings that I can remember was about 1987, somewhere in 1987, 1988. We saw home prices here in Bellevue double over the course of it felt like months. It was probably a year, something like that. But I literally remember homes being purchased for $75,000 and then not even a year later selling in a really constricted supply market. You had all these buyers coming up from California because they were escaping what they thought was hell on earth of LA in 1987. They should have waited 35 years to see what it was really going to turn into, but they made the right call. They moved up here from California, oftentimes LA, and prices went in Bellevue from $75,000 to $150,000 almost overnight. Because I have to, as an appraiser, I have to analyze any sale that happens within the last year and oftentimes disclose within the last 3 years. We didn't back then, but, you still got to analyze the sale. So you got prices doubling in a year. Hey now, what? That's crazy. And you might think that's absolutely nuts. So 100%, but we had stuff go 30, 35% during the pandemic inflation. And that's where pricing wasn't $75,000 to $150,000. That's $1 million to $1.3 million, something along those lines. So we had this rocket of a market going up. Now, we had a lot of the basics pulled out of that market, mainly interest rates. And another thing is so much activity happened during the pandemic that's not happening now, because a lot of deals that got put together back then during that time period, during the Rona, those normally would have taken place now. They would have taken place in 6 months. But because people didn't know when interest rates were going to, go up, they jumped on a lot of deals. Maybe they got a second home. Maybe they did move to the burbs. Maybe they did, they did all these different things. And they took advantage of what was an amazing time for interest rates, and they just made it all happen. And so that's another reason that you've got this big slowdown going on right now. So expect to see this market kind of move forward. You're going to see prices come off a little bit from where they are now. You're going to see inventory probably rise. You're going to see demand you're going to see buyers get back into the marketplace and realize, okay, I can buy now and then refinance later. So you're going to have, Reynolds & Klein, my appraisal company, we're going to have a refinance boom here at some point in time. Rates will drop from 5.5% to, 4.5%. Everybody will come through and do a refinance that's bought in the last year. That always happens. But, short of that, for the near future, in the next quarter one of 2023, it's going to be slow. So whatever you need to do to make sure that you can get from here to there, maybe you got to take another job. Maybe you got to take an additional job, whatever it is. Maybe you've got savings. All right. Work on your marketing. Get that marketing going because you need that marketing year round. You can't just be when it's slow and I didn't do any when it was busy. It'll all be good. You got to be consistent on that stuff because that's how you keep yourself in front of, buyers and sellers, because otherwise they'll forget about you and they'll use somebody else that is marketing to them. So, all right. So those are kind of some of my predictions going into 2023. It's going to be an interesting market no matter what. You're going to see some changes. You're going to see companies go under. You're going to see people quit. You're going to see new people come into the industry that have no idea what they've just, what we've just gone through. And they'll be like, I think I can make it. And maybe they can. But, the biggest thing I can say is hang in there. Hang in there. Make it work because there's always the other side of the market. Always that other side. Things, sometimes like 2008, that went for like 6-7 years of, this isn't good. Sometimes it's longer than others. But big difference we have between then and now is we've got jobs. We've still got jobs going and we've got minimal supply. Back then we had a ton of supply. And so, and we also had, criteria for buying a home was wildly different than the Great Recession versus where we are now. So there's some different things there as well. But bottom line is you got to be there for when the market does return. And if you're not, then that sucks and you can't take advantage of that. So those are my thoughts heading into Christmas or whatever it is, Kwanzaa, whatever you got going on. Happy holidays. How about that? Happy holidays to you and your family. Whatever that looks like, 2023, I'll catch you in the next year. It's always funny to say that, right? I'll see you next year. And you're like, but what do you mean? Oh, that's like tomorrow. That's on New Year's Eve, right? See you next year. Always a good one. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching to this point. We'll catch up in the next one. Bye for now.